experienced very strong conditioning from an entity which did not identify itself and which did not leave when she asked it to. Will you tell us what was occurring then? I am Ra. We find the instrument to have been given the opportunity to become a channel for a previously known friend. This entity was not able to answer the questioning of spirits in the name of Christ, as is this instrument's distortion of the means of differentiating betwixt those of positive and those of negative orientation. Therefore, after some resistance, the entity found the need to take its leave. Questioner. Was this particular entity the fifth density visitor that we have had quite often previously? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Is he back with us at this time? I am Ra. No. The attempt to speak was due to the vigilant eye of the minions of this entity, which noted what one may call a surge of natural telepathic ability upon the part of the instrument. This ability is cyclical, of the 18 diurnal period cycle, as we have mentioned aforetimes. Thusly, this entity determined to attempt another means of access to the instrument by free will. Questioner. Was this what I might refer to as an increase of ability to receive telepathically over a broader range of basic frequencies, so as to include not only the Confederation, but this particular entity? I am Ra. This is incorrect. The high point of the cycle sharpens the ability to pick up the signal, but does not change the basic nature of the carrier wave. Shall we say, there is greater power in the receiving antenna? Questioner. This question may be meaningless, but would a fifth density entity of the Confederation who was positively polarized transmit on the same frequency as our negatively polarized fifth density companion? I am Ra. This is correct, and is the reason that the questioning of all contacts is welcomed by the Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite Creator. Questioner. Question 2. Jim has also felt very strong conditioning, which was unbidden while channeling Latwii recently, and in his personal meditations. Would you also tell us what occurred in these cases? I am Ra. The entity which has been your companion has a vibratory frequency, but a small amount lesser than that of the social memory complex known as Latwii. Also, Latwii is the primary comforter of the Confederation for entities seeking at the vibratory complex level of the one known as Jim. Therefore, this same companion has been attempting the contact of this instrument also, although this instrument would have great difficulty in distinguishing the actual contact due to the lack of experience of your companion at this type of service. Nevertheless, it is well that this instrument also choose some manner of the challenging of contacts. Questioner. How many of our years ago was Ra's third density ended? I am Ra. The calculations necessary for establishing this point are difficult, since so much of what you call time is taken up before and after third density, as you see the progress of time from your vantage point. We may say, in general, that the time of our enjoyment of the choice-making was approximately 2.6 million of your sun years in your past. However, we correct this instrument. Your term is billion, 2.6 billion of your years in your past. However, this time, as you call it, is not meaningful, for our intervening space-time has been experienced in a manner quite unlike your third-density experience of space-time. Questioner. It appears that the end of Ra's third density coincided with the beginning of this planet's second density. Is that correct? I am Ra. This is roughly correct. Questioner. Did the planet Venus become a fourth density planet at that time? I am Ra. This is so. Questioner. Did it later then become a fifth density planet? I am Ra. It later became a fourth/fifth density planet, then later a fifth density planet for a large measure of your time. Both fourth and fifth density experiences were possible upon the planetary influence of what you call Venus. Questioner. What is its density at present? I am Ra. Its core vibrational frequency is sixth density. However, we as a social memory complex had elected to leave that influence. Therefore, the beings inhabiting this planetary influence at this spacetime are fifth density entities. The planet may be considered a fifth/sixth density planet. Questioner. What was your reason for leaving? I am Ra. We wished to be of service. Questioner. I have here a deck of 22 tarot cards, which have been copied according to information we have from the walls of, I would suspect, the large pyramid at Giza. If necessary, we can duplicate these cards in the book that we are preparing. I would ask Ra if these cards represent an exact replica of that which is in the Great Pyramid. I am Ra. The resemblance is substantial. Questioner. In other words, you might say that these were better than 95% correct as far as representing what is on the walls of the Great Pyramid? I am Ra. Yes. Questioner. The way I understand this then, Ra gave these archetypical concepts to the priests of Egypt, who then drew them upon the walls of one of the chambers of the Great Pyramid. What was the technique of transmission of this information to the priests? At this time, was Ra walking the surface among the Egyptians, or was this done through some form of channeling? I am Ra. This was done partially through old teachings and partially through visions. Questioner. Then at this particular time, Ra had long since vacated the planet as far as walking among the Egyptians. Is this correct? I am Ra. Yes. Questioner. I would like to question Ra on each of these cards in order to better understand the archetypes. Is this agreeable? I am Ra. As we have previously stated, these archetypical concept complexes are a tool for learned teaching. Thusly, if we were to offer information that were not a response to observations of the student, we would be infringing upon the free will of the learned teacher by being teach-learner and learned-teacher at once. Questioner. You stated that Ra used the tarot to develop the magical personality. Was this done by the system of learning to become, in mind, the essence of each archetype, and in this way develop the magical personality? I am Ra. This is incorrect. The clothing oneself within the archetype is an advanced practice of the adept, which has long studied this archetypical system. The concept complexes, which together are intended to represent the architecture of a significant and rich portion of the mind, are intended to be studied as individual concept complexes, as matrix, potentiator, etc., in viewing mind-body-spirit connections, and in pairs with some concentration upon the polarity of the male and the female. If these are studied, there comes the moment when the deep threnodies and joyful ditties of the deep mind can successfully be brought forward to intensify, articulate, and heighten some aspect of the magical personality. Editor's note. The word threnodies in the previous passage can be defined as a poem or song of lamentation. Questioner. You stated that each archetype is a concept complex. Would you please define what you mean by that statement? I am Ra. Upon the face of it, such a definition is without merit, being circular. A concept complex is a complex of concepts, just as a molecule is a complex structure made up of more than one type of energy nexus or atom. Each atom within a molecule is its unique identity, and by some means can be removed from the molecule. The molecule of water can by chemical means be caused to separate into hydrogen and oxygen. Separately, they cannot be construed to equal water. When formed in the molecular structure which exemplifies water, the two are irrefragably water. Just in this way, each archetype has within it several root atoms of organizational being. Separately, the overall structure of the complex cannot be seen. Together, the concept complex is irrefragably one thing. However, just as it is most useful in grasping the potentials in your physical systems of the constituting nature of water, so in grasping the nature of an archetype, it is useful to have a sense of its component concepts. Editor's note. The word irrefragably in previous passage can be defined as indisputably. Questioner. In archetype number 1, represented by tarot card number 1, the matrix of the mind seems to have 4 basic parts to the complex. Looking at the card, we have first and most obvious, the magician, and what seems to be an approaching star. A stork or similar bird seems to be in a cage. On top of the cage we have something that is very difficult to discern. Am I in any way correct in this analysis? I am Ra. You are competent at viewing pictures. You have not yet grasped the nature of the matrix of the mind as fully as is reliably possible upon contemplation. We would note that the representations drawn by priests were somewhat distorted by acquaintance with and dependence upon the astrologically based teachings of the Chaldees. Questioner. When Ra originally trained or taught the Egyptians about the Tarot, did Ra act as teach-learners to a degree that Ra became learn-teachers? I am Ra. This distortion we were spared. Questioner. Then could you tell me what information you gave to the Egyptian priests who first were contacted or taught with respect to the first archetype? Is that possible for you to do within the limits of the first distortion? I am Ra. It is possible. Our first step, as we have said, was to present the descriptions in verbal form of 3 images, 1, 8, 15. Then the questions were asked. What do you feel that a bird might represent? What do you feel that a wand might represent? What do you feel that the male represents? And so forth, until those studying were working upon a system whereby the images used became evocative of a system of concepts. This is slow work when done for the first time. We may note with sympathy that you undoubtedly feel choked by the opposite difficulty, that of a great mass of observation upon this system, all of which has some merit, as each student will experience the archetypical mind and its structure in an unique way useful to that student. We suggest that one or more of this group do that which we have suggested in order that we may, without infringement, offer observations on this interesting subject, which may be a further aid to those inquiring in this area. We would note at this time that the instrument is having almost continuous pain flares. Therefore, we ask that each of the support group be especially aware of any misinformation in order that we may correct any distortions of information the soonest possible. Questioner. Now, as I understand it, what you suggest, as far as the Tarot goes, is to study the writings that we have available and from these formulate questions. Is this correct? I am Ra. No. Questioner. I'm sorry that I didn't understand exactly what you meant with respect to that. Would it be appropriate then for me to answer the questions with respect to what I think is the meaning of the 3 items that you spoke of for card 1 and then card 8, etc.? Is this what you meant? I am Ra. This is very close to our meaning. It was our suggestion to suggest that one or more of you go through the plan of study which we have suggested. The queries having to do with the archetypes as found in the Tarot, after this point, may take the form of observing what seem to be the characteristics of each archetype. Relationships between mind, body, and spiritual archetypes of the same ranking, such as matrix, or archetypes as seen in relationship to polarity, especially when observed in the pairings. Any observations made by a student which has fulfilled these considerations will receive our comments in return. Our great avoidance of interpreting, for the first time, for the learned teacher, various elements of a picture upon a piece of pasteboard is involved both with the law of confusion and with the difficulties of the distortions of the pictures upon the pasteboard. Therefore, we may suggest a conscientious review of that which we have already given concerning this subject, as opposed to the major reliance being either upon any rendition of the archetype pictures or any system which has been arranged as a means of studying these pictures. Questioner. All right, we'll attempt to do that. Ra stated that a major breakthrough was made when proper emphasis was put on Arcanum 22. This didn't happen until after Ra had completed third density. I assume from this that Ra being polarized positively probably had some of the same difficulty that occurred prior to the veil in that the negative polarity was not appreciated. That's a guess. Is this correct? I am Ra. In one way, it is precisely correct. Our harvest was overwhelmingly positive, and our appreciation of those which were negative was relatively uninformed. However, we were intending to suggest that in the use of the system known to you as the Tarot for advancing the spiritual evolution of the self, a proper understanding, if we may use this misnomer, of Archetype 22 is greatly helpful in sharpening the basic view of the significator of mind, body, and spirit, and, further, throws into starker relief the transformation and great way of mind, body, and spirit complexes. Questioner. Were some of Ra's population negatively harvested at the end of Ra's third density? I am Ra. We had no negative harvest as such, although there had been 2 entities which had harvested themselves during the third density in the negative or service to self path. There were, however, those upon the planetary surface during third density whose vibratory patterns were in the negative range, but were not harvestable. Questioner. What was Ra's average total population incarnate on Venus in third density? The number. I am Ra. We were a small population which dwelt upon what you would consider difficult conditions. Our harvest was approximately 6,500,000 mind-body-spirit complexes. There were approximately 32 million mind-body-spirit complexes repeating third density elsewhere. Questioner: what was the attitude just prior to harvest of those harvestable entities of Ra with respect to those who were obviously unharvestable? I am Ra. Those of us which had the gift of polarity felt deep compassion for those who seemed to dwell in darkness. This description is most apt, as ours was a harshly bright planet in the physical sense. There was every attempt made to reach out with whatever seemed to be needed. However, those upon the positive path have the comfort of companions, and we of Ra spent a great deal of our attention upon the possibilities of achieving spiritual or metaphysical adepthood, or work in indigo ray, through the means of relationships with other selves. Consequently, the compassion for those in darkness was balanced by the appreciation of the light. Questioner: would Ra have the same attitude toward the unharvestable entities now, or would it be different at this nexus than at the time of harvest from third density? I am Ra. Not substantially. To those who wished to sleep, we could only offer those comforts designed for the sleeping. Service is only possible to the extent it is requested. We were ready to serve in whatever way we could. This still seems satisfactory as a means of dealing with other selves in third density. It is our feeling that to be each entity which one attempts to serve is to simplify the grasp of what service is necessary or possible. Questioner: what techniques did the two negatively harvested entities use for negative polarization on such a positively polarized planet? I am Ra. The technique of control over others and domination unto the physical death was used in both cases. Upon a planetary influence much unused to slaughter, these entities were able to polarize by this means. Upon your third density environment, at the time of your experiencing, such entities would merely be considered, shall we say, ruthless despots which waged the holy war. Questioner: did these two entities evolve from the second density of the planet Venus, along with the rest of the population of Venus that became Ra, from second density to third? I am Ra. No. Questioner: what was the origin of the two entities of which you speak? I am Ra. These entities were wanderers from early positive fifth density. Questioner: and though they had already evolved through a positive fourth density, they, shall we say, switched polarity in the reincarnating and third density? Is this correct? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: what was the catalyst for their change? I am Ra. In our peoples, there was what may be considered from the viewpoint of wisdom an overabundance of love. These entities looked at those still in darkness and saw that those of a neutral or somewhat negative viewpoint found such harmony, shall we say, sickening. The wanderers felt that a more wisdom-oriented way of seeking love could be more appealing to those in darkness. First, one entity began its work. Quickly, the second found the first. These entities had agreed to serve together, and so they did, glorifying the one Creator, but not as they intended. About them were soon gathered those who found it easy to believe that a series of specific knowledges and wisdoms would advance one towards the Creator. The end of this was the graduation into fourth density negative of the wanderers, which had much power of personality, and some small deepening of a negatively polarized element of those not polarizing positively. There was no negative harvest as such. Questioner: what was the reason for the wandering of these two wanderers, and were they male and female? I am Ra. All wanderers come to be of assistance in serving the Creator, each in its own way. The wanderers of which we have been speaking were indeed incarnated male and female, as this is by far the most efficient system of partnership. Questioner: as a wild guess, one of these entities wouldn't be the one who has been our companion here for some time in our sessions, would it? I am Ra. No. Questioner: then from what you say, I am guessing that these wanderers returned or wandered to Ra's third density to possibly seed greater wisdom into what they saw as an overabundance of compassion in the Ra culture. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is incorrect in the sense that before incarnation, it was the desire of the wanderers only to aid in service to others. The query has correctness when seen from the viewpoint of the wanderers within that incarnation. Questioner: I just can't understand why they would think that a planet that was doing as well as Roz was doing, as far as I can tell, would need wanderers in order to help with the harvest. Was this at an early point in Ra's third density? I am Ra. It was in the second cycle of 25,000 years. We had a harvest of 6 out of 30, to speak roughly, millions of mind-body-spirit complexes, less than 20%. Wanderers are always drawn to whatever percentage has not yet polarized and come when there is a call. There was a call from those which were not positively polarized as such, but which sought to be positively polarized and sought wisdom, feeling the compassion of other selves upon Venus as complacent or pitying towards other selves. Questioner: what was the attitude of these two entities after they graduated into fourth density negative, and, the veil being removed, they realized that they had switched polarities? I am Ra. They were disconcerted. Questioner: then did they continue striving to polarize negatively for a fifth density negative harvest, or did they do something else? I am Ra. They worked with the fourth density negative for some period, until, within this framework, the previously learned patterns of the self had been recaptured, and the polarity was, with great effort, reversed. There was a great deal of fourth density positive work, then, to be retraced. Questioner: how is Ra aware of this information? By what means does Ra know the precise orientation of these two entities in fourth density negative, etc.? I am Ra. These entities joined Ra in fourth density positive for a portion of the cycle which we experienced. Questioner: I assume then that they came in late. Is this correct? I am Ra. Yes. Questioner: I didn't mean to get so far off the track of my original direction of questioning, but I think some of these excursions are very enlightening and will help in understanding of the basic mechanisms that we are so interested in evolution. Ross stated that archetypes are helpful when used in a controlled way. Would you give me an example of what you mean by using an archetype in a controlled way? I am Ra. We speak with some regret in stating that this shall be our last query of length. There is substantial energy left, but this instrument has distortions that rapidly approach the limit of our ability to maintain secure contact. The controlled use of the archetype is that which is done within the self for the polarization of the self, and to the benefit of the self if negatively polarized, or others if positively polarized, upon the most subtle of levels. Keep in mind at all times that the archetypical mind is a portion of the deep mind and informs thought processes. When the archetype is translated without regard for magical propriety into the manifested daily actions of an individual, the greatest distortions may take place, and great infringement upon the free will of others is possible. This is more nearly acceptable to one negatively polarized. However, the more carefully polarized of negative mind-body-spirit complexes will also prefer to work with a finely tuned instrument. May we ask if there are any brief queries before we leave this working? Questioner: I'll just make the statement that I perceive that a negative polarity harvest is possible with less negativity in the environment like Ra's environment than in the environment such as we have at present, and ask if that is correct. And then, is there anything that we can do to improve the contact or the comfort of the instrument? I am Ra. Firstly, the requirements of harvest are set. It is, however, easier to serve the self completely, or nearly so, if there is little resistance. In the matter of the nurturing of the instrument, we suggest further manipulation of the dorsal side and appendages of this instrument, and the whirling of the waters, if possible. The alignments are conscientious. We ask for your vigilance in the alignments and preparations. All is well, my friends. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.
Greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator, and let us open our hearts with loving kindness for each other, seeing the divine within each of us as we discuss the material we have read and any other relevant points on our service to others journey. Okay, thank you. Who would like to begin?
Question for you. So so you're fifth density positive wanderer, and you come back, and then you end up going negative fourth. So you don't bounce back to where you were. You just kind of start over in whatever polarity that you're going in when you're acting as a wanderer. Yes, no?
Yeah, you just have a bias based on your previous soul's experiences.
So why would you want to go back to to pretty much demote yourself in a sense of starting over more? I mean, I get wanting to be of service, but they were already fifth positive. So you want to go back to be fourth. Is that for all wanderers then? So pretty much no matter what you were before, you come back and you go through this cycle, and then you demote yourself in a sense. And I don't mean demote like you're above anyone. You guys know what I mean. To go into a lower density again, or I'm asking you, don't worry, you don't have to raise your hand.
Okay. So the service to self wanderers, because they're just in it for themselves, they will not generally incarnate in lower densities until they're at sixth density. And then they
Why is that? Oh, is that because they can't go higher?
Yes, exactly, because they can't.
All right, but they said this one though, they were fifth density positive.
Yes.
Then they came back, and then they become fourth negative.
So the positive densities are always trying to be of service to others, and then they see, say, our planet suffering. Like Haton is a fourth density social memory complex that's here to help us, and Latwii is a fifth density social memory complex that's here to help us. And then like some of the members of Haton have incarnated on Earth because they feel like they could be of more service if they were directly here than they can in a spaceship.
But they don't remember, yeah?
Yeah, they don't remember, but they have some certain biases. Yeah.
So no matter what, though, if you're a wanderer and high or whatever, and you come back, you're inevitably going through the whole process again to harvest, whether positive or negative, doesn't matter, in a lower what you call it?
Yeah.
Density. No.
So you.
Well, Ed, you could tell me after him.
Oh, you have to achieve the service to others grade upon the cessation of your life, just like anyone else. You have all the same starting stuff, but you have that bias. It's kind of like you're talented because you've already graduated once. You have this inherent talent that you're more likely to polarize, the same way that you polarized before, just because of your soul's bias.
Okay. So yes, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The other thing about that is the main thing that keeps wanderers trapped here is making karmic connections and having karmic debt basically when you die. So you can come back as a wanderer, and as long as you don't cause karmic reactions with other people, then you go back to what you were before. But if you forget that you're a wanderer and you come here and you cause all this karmic stuff, then you have to kind of repeat all the karmic interactions that you caused in that density over again. Also, just to say on this whole thing of kind of a fifth density positive coming back to do a fourth density negative job or whatever, other things I've read about have been kind of like a fifth density or sixth density positive social memory complex can come back and essentially through wisdom, like it says, they had a abundance of love. So really the wise thing to do is for you as a positively polarized entity is to come there and take the hit karmically, to cause a load of shit and kind of disrupt this abundance, this overabundance of love, to give them catalyst. So, so these fifth density wanderers, got to fifth density, but they could see from wisdom that coming back to fourth density to kind of cancel out the overabundance of love is actually better for the race of Ra than without them. So that's their act of service. So their actual service is having to do another karmic loop in fourth density or third density or whatever it was. But because of that, more people harvested positive because of the catalyst they provided, in theory, I believe.
So then it seems to me then you would want to come back and have karma and build a karmic tie anyways then, because what's the hell's the point if you don't?
Well, because if you come here and you've got a kind of pre-incarnative idea to come here and essentially do this act of wisdom, to then kind of churn it all up a bit, and you're willing to put in the act of service and sacrifice for doing that one cycle again. But if you want to come here positive and not churn it up and cause shit, and actually come here and actually kind of help people to ascend, then you won't cause the karmic damage, and you'll go back in at the fifth density that you came in at. If after you've done the fourth density, like through the system again, then you'll come out higher than when you went in because of the act of service.
Okay, so I'm sorry, because I initially asked, I'm trying to get on there. Just one question. So you just said something about the first cycle. So again, are you talking about the 25,000 years?
Yeah. Let's
get back on that. Because last time Andre told me, hold on, the last time Andre told me, that's why it was a big confusion them 2 things ago, that them cycles were only pertaining to the earth. You said it was pertaining to the planet, not us. That's why I was super confused. So how does that coincide with what Ed's saying when he's talking about first cycle? Because he's not talking about the planet itself. He's talking about the people,
no, just
or the person, the wanderer.
Third density incarnation. It can be kind of a certain time distance for a cycle of third density. But Ra explained it, isn't it? Because like the first two are super long because you're like basically bits of rock and like space dust and stuff, and then third density is really kind of short in comparison to the rest because it's so intense period of choice. So yeah, I don't know the set. The point is that cycle of third density is shorter than the others, because I think probably because so you can completely mess it up and
So
Andre,
I just
Yeah,
wanted
go
to
ahead,
add
Andre.
some clarifying points here about the karma, for example. So my understanding of that, based on the material, is they say that karma is basically resentment, either towards yourself or others. So if say, for instance, you resent someone else and you feel like they owe you something, or you want vengeance or something, and then you come back to get them back, that's one version of karma. And another version of karma is like where you royally screwed up, and like you feel guilty about that, and then you come back to try to fix it. So those are the two kinds of karma. And so basically, like, if you're willing to forgive other people and you're willing to forgive yourself, then you can kind of cut ties and not come back. But if you're happy coming back, then it doesn't matter. You can have like some reason, some minor karma to keep you reincarnating. And then in terms of the fifth density, yeah, so the fifth density, they had wisdom, and so they wanted to offer their wisdom to the people. They just kind of it didn't work out. Can
you explain a little deeper then, because that's still a confusion for me, as per our conversation two sessions ago, where there's where you're differentiating between these cycles pertain to the planet and not us, because it still isn't making sense to me.
So
I'm asking you. You don't have to raise your hand.
Okay. So the idea is that within, like, say, Earth or Venus, they have their third density cycle, which is the major cycle is 75,000 years. Okay. And the minor cycles are 25,000 years each.
Yep.
And so Ra refers to these historical time periods or ages or cycles as when things happen. And so that's kind of like saying, that happened in,
No,
three
I meant
AD.
use that in reference with us right now in our own
Yes.
cycle.
And so Ed, yes. So we finished the third density cycle in 2012, and now we are in fourth density. And then Ed was talking about the densities, the personal densities. So there are the planetary densities, but there's also the personal densities. So the personal
So there
density,
is there 3 cycles for the personal density?
not necessarily. It's not.
That's
measured
what
in
I'm asking
cycles.
you to clarify for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even referring to what we read today, because I'm just piggybacking on my question that was 2 times ago, where it was like,
Yeah.
you know,
So it can be measured in cycles, but I haven't read them using cycles in relation to personal densities. It's usually more of a time frame thing. So like first density, like Ed was saying, is like 1 billion years, and second density is like 2 billion years or something. And then third density, 75,000 years, and fourth density is 30 million years. But this is on average. This is on average. Not everybody goes through them that
yeah,
fast.
I
or
think
that
we're getting
slow.
that's not what I'm asking. I think, see, that's what I mean. Like, I have to freaking word my crap right, so I know. So I'm asking actually what I mean. So what I'm saying is, because right now I'm pretty sure he just says something about. All right, so when you, Ed, real quick, when you just mentioned the first cycle, right? As far you were talking about the person, the entity itself, were you talking
Yes.
about the 25,000 years out of the 75,000 years? Is what I'm asking.
Okay, so I wasn't here for this conversation you guys had 2 weeks ago, so I'm a little confused.
Well, me
but-
too. I asked a question
Okay,
2 weeks
so
ago.
The way I understand it is that if you fail harvest, yeah, then you have to go in for another cycle of third density, right? That
Which a
can be
cycle is
yeah,
75, yes?
I believe so. I mean, I can't fully remember numbers. I'm dyslexic. Please stop putting the pressure. I it's too much. But
All right.
but
Andre, is
yeah,
75?
once you
A whole cycle of third
if you fail
density
it,
is
yeah.
75.
Not necessarily. It's
Oh, that's confusing.
you will enter a cycle of compatible vibration typically. So based on seniority of vibration. So you want to go somewhere, and then the most compatible vibrations, or the highest vibrations, will go in there, and you can graduate sooner than 25,000 years or sooner than 75,000 years, because you may have already been in
Yes.
third density like 100 million years.
Okay, so that was my question 2 weeks ago when I was saying that. And it was like you went to saying it only pertained to the what you call it. So you can graduate prior to the full like, so I had
Yes.
it right the first time before y'all confused the shit out of me. All right, cool.
Yeah, because that's
Thank
kind
you.
of where the whole ascension thing comes from. Saint Germain has been talking about this for past 300 odd years before the harvest happened. Do you know what I mean? But also the because that's the whole kind of brotherhood of light aspect of it. Because there's kind of 3 sides to this whole thing, isn't there? And yeah. Anyway, I don't really
All right,
know.
cool.
Yeah.
And another good example is Jesus. He was only here for one lifetime. Well, incarnate, and then he ascended at the end of his lifetime, and he didn't incarnate again.
What do you mean, Michelle?
Making a joke. So they confused the shit out of you, and I'm like, well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like it confused a lot more people than just me during that time. And now I'm like, okay, right back on to what I was saying is, yes, that's right. And I think that you guys might have thought I was talking about something specific, and I got all confused and shit. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And I got all fucking T-Rex on everybody. Hey, I can admit it. I own my shit. Can't be mad at me.
Okay,
anyway,
right,
thank you for clarifying.
So in he said that only 6 out of every 30 people in or 6 to 30 or 20% of the people in Venus
6 million, yeah.
We're
ready.
Ascended full density.
Mm-hmm.
that mean all the rest of them were in the sinkhole of indifference and they were just going to shipped off to another planet? That kind of sucks,
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly. Yeah.
They came to Earth.
All the ones that ascended all became Ra.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, no. Not all of the ones that ascended became Ra, because Ra
Oh.
mentioned that at the time that Ra left Venus, they were 6th density entities, and they were a 6th density social memory complex, but there was still a 5th density social memory complex on Venus at the time. So some of the people who were still hanging around in 5th density were still on Venus when Ra left to Earth.
So the
Would that be
6th
social memory
density
complexes?
Ra, though.
Yeah.
So
It's
in
confusing.
other words, there's still 5th and 6th density living on Venus right now.
Yeah.
As of
Yeah.
1981.
Right.
Wait, 6
That-
too?
that-
Well, possibly. I mean, some of them might have graduated while Ra
that,
was
that
absent.
ties in with the Voices of Venus. Like heavily, like that, the Voices of Venus book. Like it really ties in with that because he talks about how like they've had like whole chunks of the race ascend, and how like, you know, essentially they kind of choose to be in this density for as long as they are, and then, you know, they go through some ritual and they ascend. So yeah, so I like to that, like the way that kind of links in, the kind of I like it when it connects up.
No, I know they said specifically Venus is 5th/6th density right now. So
But is
My-
that Venus the planet?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have the shells, and right now the 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 6th have entities in them. There's
From
no
what I
no one
what I
3rd or 4th
understand-
density on Venus.
Oh, hold on. Say
from what I
that again.
understand,
So 1st, which is the rocks. 2nd, because there's
Oh,
some algae in the
gotcha,
clouds.
gotcha.
And then, but there's no 3rd or 4th density entities on Venus, and there
Okay.
are 5th and 6th densities.
Okay.
so yeah, the way I understand it is that the planet, that the race that's on it can only really exist at the same vibration as the planetary influence. So if the planet's ascended to 5th density, then it can't let any 3rd density things live on it anymore.
No,
and
that's
yeah, I think you
not
get-
true.
No, because like you can't get 4th, you can't get like 5th and 6th on on a 3rd density planet. They have
That's
to be.
you can. You can. It's just that the biosphere became disabled to the point where it can't support 3rd density host bodies, and 4th density bodies are similar to 3rd density bodies in terms of they still have like enough physical attributes that they would because they're basically 4th density bodies are transitional between 3rd density and 5th density, so they still have some physical attributes. They're not fully like bodies of light and 5th density.
Then how about 6 then? Because he said 6 and you said yes.
So yeah, 6th
Because
density is
isn't that kinda
more
like the
of a,
whole-
like it's even, you're not even a shape-shifting body of light. You're more like in time space. You're spending a lot of time in time space as like thoughts and interacting in the world through thoughts more than you are by, you know,
Do we have that
manipulating your
here?
body.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Whoa.
Anyway, what I
Is
was
that
talking
here?
about is like, you know, Earth is a 3rd density planet. Yeah.
Oh.
Right. We
Oh,
can have
4th now,
4th
yeah?
density being,
Yeah, we're
or
4th density now.
4D, you know, we're 4th density now as of, you know, just going into it, you know, on the cusp. But the point is, you know, there might be 4th density ships here, but we can't really see them because we've, you know, they can't really interact with them properly because we're 3rd density. You know,
Yeah, our
now
bodies
on
are still 3rd
Venus,
density.
you know,
Yeah.
apparently because we're 3rd density, we can't see the civilization that exists there because it's 5th density, it's 5th, 4th, 5th density or whatever.
Basi-
But if we were 3rd density living on that planet, we would not even know that it was there because it's a completely different density, right?
Yeah.
So we could be walking straight through their cities and not have a clue that it's even there. And that's more what I'm saying. So you can't have the two things coexist, as it were. because the third density beings would not even be able to interact with
Yeah.
things
So
of other
how
densities.
How soon before we have technology able to detect higher densities and entities that are in them like that?
Oh,
Well, like one thing that Ross says that always made me laugh when talking about why couldn't we detect this with science is he says something about like it wouldn't be a very good illusion if you could prove it wrong.
it's true, eh?
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's a spot on, right? If you could just like literally beam a laser at it and go, oh look, there's fifth density, yay!
Yeah.
What would be the point of third density?
So is
The
this-
analogy I would give is it's kind of like imagine so we're third density entities and like we are able to hide ourselves from second density entities like ants. You know, ants can't see very well and like they can't tell that we are there. Like they have no way of knowing unless we pick them up and we start like poking them or something, you know. And a fifth or a service to self entity could do that, you know. Or if there's like a bug that is like trying to get out the window and then it's asking of service like I want to get out this window, then you can help it as a service to others entity, help it out, get out that window. Like just like one of the things that I was late was that there was a bumblebee, a queen bumblebee flying around my basement.
you didn't kill it, did you?
No, I caught it in a jar and then I released it outside, you know. But
Okay.
it was I don't think it was aware of me, you know, but I could tell that it wanted to go outside and so I helped it. I was of service to it.
Okay, so dude, just to jump in, yeah, at this point, right, any insects that come in my shack, I point at them and I say, you, get out. And I point at the door and literally pretty much like 95% of the time, the fly or the bee just like looks at it and then goes straight out the fucking door.
Yeah,
Actually, mind
That's what we do. That's what I do with spiders here in Australia. If anyone wants to know why I'm still alive and haven't been consumed by man-eating spiders, is because I go, "Oi, the fuck outside!" And it goes.
Yeah,
Good.
I tell them to get
exactly
in the jar.
Same thing.
I tell them to get in the jar and they fly into the jar. And then I
So
put
then
the
they
lid on.
do know. So then they have to be aware. Or
Well,
are
when I-
you
when-
saying
when I
you're like the
communicate
sixth
with
Okay, all right, I
density?
was going to say the
Or
other thing
are
about
you
what you're
saying they're like the
Andre,
sixth density
ants is
being-
a very good example.
I happen a little bitty lizard being pursued by two cats. It's so scared it doesn't know what the heck to do. You have to block it.
What?
A little bitty
Say that
lizard
again?
being chased by two cats.
A lizard being chased by two cats.
Chased by two cats.
Yeah, a little gecko who's already had its tail scared off of it.
Oh no.
I get
Yeah.
it. Get out. Yeah,
Gotta
that
save the gecko.
So are you saying, because the way that you put sixth density beings as being kind of like putting the thought forms in, as us being to the ant or the fly or the whatever, and when your guys are saying, go to the damn door.
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
And I have
BB
one question. I have one
ahead.
question, Andre. So when a person is stuck in time and space, right? What does that mean? You know,
Space time. No, they're not stuck. But
space time. I
so
understand the garbage.
we're in space time. So where there's 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. And now 6th density entities can shift from space time to time space, where they would shift into where there's multiple
Space.
dimensions of time and only 1 dimension of space. So they would still be in the same like space, but they would be in a different like time, and they'd be able to like time travel through it and then view it, you know, in a kind of a different way than we do.
I understand like wormholes or whatever, however you want to picture it. I get what you're saying. So,
Yeah.
but how does that affect a person on a 3D level? Like
So-
if you're 3D and you're living in time and space, because that's what I heard. I don't know if I'm
Yeah. So I'll give an example. So when I was a gray alien, in my previous life,
Oh, there's a story.
he's a monster.
so we would do those like abductions and stuff, right? And then how we would do them is that third density entities, they're not very good at understanding how their brains work. You know, they just have this clutter of thoughts going through their heads. And so what we would do is we would like form like a little coven or like of 3 or more entities, and then we would tell them what to think, you know, or we would
Are you
like,
a wanderer?
yeah, of course. And like, you know, you could just like blank out their mind or like, okay, walk that way, you know, and then like that's the only thought that's in their head. There's nothing else in their head. It's like, I'm walking forwards. Okay, I'm gonna walk forwards, you know, and that's what happens. That's how it works.
So they're instinctive. That's what they're sucking into their lower brain, essentially.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people like that don't meditate and stuff. They're just like whatever happens in their head, they just do that.
Exactly. The STEM basis there being, I think, therefore I am, the identification with the thoughts in the mind instead of the witness behind the scene there. And so then anything that lands in somebody's mind becomes what they're thinking or what they're naturally going towards, and they can be manipulated easily because they identify with that instead of seeing that like a picture.
Exactly. They haven't refined their consciousness to the point that they can distinguish the different kinds of voices and the sources of the thoughts in their mind. And like, so if you had a very advanced entity that could distinguish those things, then they wouldn't be tricked by that. And so, you know, gray aliens or whatever would stay away from that. And like that, there's even that technology where third density military, they call it the voice of God, where they use microwave frequencies to inject thoughts into people's heads, you know, and it's the same idea.
I understand what you're talking about.
Okay, great.
That's good. Well, that since we
And
just
there's
went
a
down that
whole- there's
rabbit
a whole
hole.
conspiracy theory that says that the raw material was beamed in that way.
I don't think so. I'll be back. I gotta go to
Well,
somebody.
it's how all channeling works.
Son, anybody else have any thoughts or something they want to talk about?
Okay, something
Let's hear about this.
Something I really did want to talk about that he just mentioned, like a little tiny like blip, but like I thought it's quite important. Like he was saying about how when he was trying to talk about how the archetype is a concept, and then you've got water, and you know it's all, and he says when he's talking about water, he's talking about that it's held together by specific energy nexuses.
Yeah,
or
the
what we call
hydrogen,
atoms.
oxygen. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the energy nexus part kind of got me. Like, you know, when you think about kind of like an energy nexus, like is that kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. That just seemed like that really rung true to something more that more that we need to be looking at with atoms.
Okay, so
I
That
study
makes sense.
89
moment,
to 20. Okay, go ahead, Trevor.
I was just going to say, at the moment, I've been studying something that is being published under official papers in Nature and Science and stuff like this, called the Information Nexus Awareness. And that's what they're calling the fabric of space-time through the scale of light speed at its scale, which is commonly called the Planck scale, of course. So at that scale, that's where you're talking about what we would see as the fabric of space-time, which makes it seem like it ends there, but it doesn't. It keeps going, of course. But that point is where in Buddhism you're talking about the speed of, or the realm of compassion, where you can span from edge to edge of the universe in about 4 seconds flat if you were to time it on a measuring device of some kind, projections and things like this. But that network of structure at that scale, way below the quantum, is in fact what they're calling currently in the scientific world the information nexus of awareness. And that's what they call the realm of consciousness from our world, or the realm of compassion from, but when they're talking about compassion in Buddhism, they're talking about higher consciousness. When we're talking about the realm of consciousness in our world, I'm not talking the realm of consciousness like, oh my God, you should have seen what Betty said to me yesterday. Oh, I just couldn't believe it. Like, seriously? You know, that's sort of your lower consciousness, the voices inside your head, where the higher realm of consciousness is a lot faster and a lot more intuitive based. It's like your connected mind rather than the fragmented parts of the hemispheres trying to compete for viability.
Was it energy nexus? I just want to know that, and then you can ask your question. Was that what they referred to them as, energy nexus, right?
Yeah, energy nexus.
Yeah, so
So
the different ones that
what
make
you
up something.
call atoms.
Okay.
Atoms,
Yeah.
cellular memory, us, so on. I get that. But no, I'm not talking about, it's not really a question. I'm just going back on what we were talking about, sucking into the lower brainstem, all that. I mean, when I went to my first spiritual healing school, what my mom put me into, the first thing they did was taught me how to nurture people, because you can't be a hunter and gatherer and not know how to nurture. When you learn how to nurture, that's coming from basically, the feminine, picking berries, whatever, if you want to just simplify it to that point. Not caveman. I would say archonic thinking, but I don't know what that means. I came from somewhere else. But basically, when they taught me how to do that, it took about 5-6 years because a savage raised me. But he's the most loving man I know too. But when you learn how to nurture, everything switches around, and you might become a gatherer, but the hunter might come to you. So that's all I got to say about that. Sucking into the lower brainstem, all that instinctive thinking. I don't even think it's 3D. I don't even think it's from this world, because I see it every day. So if that makes sense, I don't know. And that's all I'm going to say.
So then, like, this is another one where they talked about the tarot a lot again. I don't know whether anyone really kind of super into the tarot thing, but has anyone read the work of I can't remember his first name. It's something Gray. He's kind of a 40s, 50s kind of occultist. But the way that he describes the learning way of doing it, of kind of understanding the tarot in the archetypal form, is well similar to the way Ra describes it, which is weird, because the way that Don asks Ra is similar to the guy, the PF Case, whatever his name is, the guy that did the Bota stuff. Desiree, you know what I mean?
I think so. I'm trying to hold on. I can't remember the fucking name. Nope.
Yeah, like I think the guy's something Case, the guy that started the Bota thing. But the way he's a big believer in kind of embodying the archetypes and taking on their form, kind of thing, and you like taking on their energy, but like the way that, well, they both kind of have elements of what Ra talks about. This kind of like taking on the meaning of the card rather than being told what it is, kind of thing, and understanding it. But what the way Gray describes it is, he talks about how each element means something, and you should understand what it is by realizing what that thing is to you. So like a wand, for example, like that's the thing that reminded me when he said, what does a wand mean? Like when if you think about like a rod, a stick, a staff, a
I knew it was Paul.
all of those. Paul Case,
Foster
PF
Case.
is it?
Yeah, I'm like,
Paul
but I was
Foster
thinking
Case,
of Foster, not Case. I'm like, that didn't sound right, but it's Paul Foster Case.
Yeah. Because he talks a lot about like taking on the archetype of the card into yourself. So you have the card and you picture it, you kind of meditate on it, and then you take on its energy into you, and you use that energy as a fuel to get you through whatever situation, kind of thing. But then like Don asks Ra if that's kind of the way to do it, and Ra was like, not really. Like he said that you've got to more kind of verbally form the verbal forms in the image. So like go through and take like each bit in there and ask yourself what it means inside the bigger context of the archetype. So then each of those little parts means something in your life. that you know that you can relate to the card. Anyway, it's weird because both of those kind of views on how to do it were in this session of Ra. Anyway,
I can't remember. We're up to 89, are we at the moment?
Yeah, 89. Yeah.
I remember exactly off the top of my head what's in that, but I'm absolutely certain that the first steps of the tarot that Ra encourages is not using the cards, but contemplating the complexes of the archetypes themselves before you start to try to then mix cards together in larger pictures, is to look at the pieces of the puzzle.
Well, yeah, that's what he's talking about. He's saying one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, he said that like each kind of so each card is a complex of concepts. Yeah. So then then when you take the picture apart, it has all of the concepts in it, which then form the complex of the card.
But he also
then you meditate on each concept inside to give you a bigger picture on the complete complex of the archetype. Yeah.
But he uses that in context. He uses that in context of then backing it up by saying as well that the particular instances of imagery in these cards are mostly irrelevant because they're relative to the culture that established them.
Yeah.
So
totally.
while these concepts can be used by us, they didn't translate all of them because most of them were referenced to the Egyptian culture and weren't relevant for us. But if we created our own, like many people do, you can come up with a whole bunch of different images that mean the same things.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the kind of the archetypal images do have specific components that run through that are supposed to act as a what's that word? Is it a talismanic image? Like, you know, that you know, just by looking at the image, it portrays have the same kind of elements, as it were. But like, I fully agree. Whatever kind of relates that concept best to you. You know, magicians should always make their own cards in theory, but you know.
But that's what they have you do with them anyway. So you have them, and then you sit with each one. They have you color your own, and like really, it's your connection to them and your interpretation, your whatever to each one, along with more or less what they kind of help you know too. But you're building your relationship with them and your interpretation to it as well. So it isn't so much just following someone else's. You're building your own at the same time. And then when you do that connection, then you go and do, therefore put more into it to do the archetypal and the way that they're teaching or they're saying to use them afterwards. But yeah, you still build your own relationship. What the hell? And their dicks is all I seen come up on my screen. What the hell was that? Oh, okay. Oh, my bad. That was a direct message to me.
Okay. Oh, well, I just briefly, like 8920, I put it in the chat. That's the question we're talking about, if anyone wants to look at it. And it basically says that while each tarot card is made of multiple concepts, it's the tarot card itself is one concept that's made of those concepts, but it could be helpful for people to figure out what parts it's made of in understanding the whole. Okay, Robert?
Yeah, I was wondering, it says in 89, 14, 15, and 16, Dawn is specifically mentioning the walls of the Great Pyramid on Giza, and the drawings on the walls. And yet if you do a search, there have been no drawings, hieroglyphs, anything on any of the walls of the pyramids of Giza.
There's two that I'm aware
mentioned.
of. There's two that I'm aware of that we've discovered on the walls of Giza. One of them is an alpha, one of them is an omega, and they sit right next to each other. There's also
the symbols, but not the actual tarot card, though.
Right, they made it sound like the 22 tarot images were on the walls of the pyramid.
It did in the reading we just did.
So I'm just wondering what clarification we might have on that, if anyone has anything.
I have clarification too. So, I mean, I heard from a South African Illuminati lady that basically trained me, you know, for years.
Here's what?
You know, it's phosphorus and omega, that whole story. But you know, maybe Andre knows I don't know. So
Trevor is right about that Alpha and Omega because they just found it not too long ago. In like the inlay, one was near a tomb, I believe, right? And the other, same thing with like the horned ox or something they found as well. That was like, I think I know what you're talking about because I seen something on it.
In the King's Chamber. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yep. But as far as the whole tarot, I never heard anything like that. But yes, Rod did make it sound like in this reading that all the archetypes were in the pyramids.
He
I'm gonna go
didn't
back and look.
disagree, but he said it was like highly correct or something like that. It was like 95% correct that they were there. It's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Or the interpretations of them, I believe. He was saying the interpretations that they had that were received through not only visions, but also old teachings that were 95% more aligned with what they perceived the archetypes as. That's what I gathered from that.
I found it on Phosphorus. She was right, and I'm gonna send the document over there. And
Found what?
Phosphorus, and there's another whatever, Andre got to tell you, it's like a chemical or something, but I was in class, honestly, but I know that the phosphorus is the male and then the omega is the female, and there's two chemicals that makes life on Earth. And I know that she might be South African Illuminati, whatever. We don't fuck with each other no more. I mean, we could talk about that a different day, but it's right here in front of you. So I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm just trying to understand what you're talking about. We kind of confused us.
He mentions phosphorus, and phosphorus was the
right, here it is.
word for Lucifer.
Oh, no, get out of there. Sorry, I'm just talking to my screen. Continue.
Say that again, bro.
Yeah, Benny mentioned phosphorus, and phosphorus, I believe, was the Greek word for Lucifer. Not the entity, just Lucifer.
And those are all
bringing light bringer.
You
just
put
like
phosphorescence.
If
we don't have phosphorus in water, you get light.
We don't have life. That's all you need to know. So, I mean, I sent you all the article. I mean, I found it, whatever. But I mean,
well, that's it. Where's this say the phosphorus in there? Because I see it saying alpha and omega.
That is alpha, phosphorus.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Okay. See, that's what I was asking, because what you were saying, I wasn't grasping all of it. All right.
Yeah, so that's, phosphorus. I don't know what the omega is, but I should, because that's all I fuck with. So
there was an alter ego to phosphorus, and it was like Nocturus, something like that. It was the night version of light. Phospho was light and Nocto was night.
Interesting.
So to go back to what Robert was saying about the tarot cards being printed in the pyramids of Giza, I think this ties into what Ed and I were discussing before we started the session. For there's a reason for all these crazy little bits of information that are very specific, because if you notice even in our recent history, there's biblical information that was put thousands of years ago in a book that no one could have any proof of, and now we're finding archaeological evidence of it. You have to keep in mind, we're third going into fourth very slow density, where this veil is supposed to slowly be lifted. We're going to be finding information of things that are mystical, that are true, and we're going to be learning things about metaphysics, and we're going to be learning things about other things that fly around in the sky. So going to be revealed information. There's going to be, he wouldn't have said it, just like he wouldn't have said anything about the secret Space Force that we had in 1981, unless he knew very soon that the information was going to be revealed. It's a little bit of breach of free will, especially the space program thing, but I don't think that's a breach of free will telling us the tarot cards are imprinted in the pyramid, but I think they're in there, and I think they're going to find them. That's why you probably mentioned it so specific. Does that make sense?
Mm,
I see you grimacing.
So
I'm just trying to find where they are in the pyramid, like you said. That's
So-
it. I think we went a little too far.
So it's the Brotherhood of Light tarot deck by CC Zane. That's the one that they're talking about. And
about it?
so I am looking at the origins of it. And basically they have said that they have used symbolism of ancient Egypt copied from some walls in Egypt. Like some of the symbols are the same or similar to what is found on Egyptian walls. But if they didn't
Is that what
find
they
the tarot
said?
cards themselves, they just use symbols similar to what they've seen.
So that's
in
what Trevor was
various
saying.
temples. And if you look, I mean, Don Elkins, he seems confused and he thinks presumably the Great Pyramids.
Right.
You know, he's just presuming this point, and
Go
then
back and read
Ra,
that.
I think, is affirming that it's Egyptian. The symbolism is very similar to Egyptian symbolism, like
As long as-
95% similarity.
Okay,
Yeah,
copied
there
according
was
to
a
the law.
lot of symbolism
From the
at
walls of
Saqqara
I
and
was
other
back the
places
large
of
pyramid at
Egypt,
Giza.
not the Giza Plateau.
If
Yeah,
necessary,
but
we
not
could
not
duplicate
Giza particularly, because that's kind of an empty thing. It
according
was
to
not
the information we have from the
desecrated with
walls
images,
of
except apparently this Alpha and Omega.
But even if they were trying to
That's
give
right.
information,
These
I mean,
cards
they
are
could have
an exact replica
been
of what
experiencing a slight distortion and not exactly meant the Pyramid of Giza too. It could have been just on
well,
some Egyptian
go ahead.
wall, because they had just, I think the last session, they were warning about her having
These are bad
her ailments causing distortion in the signals, and watch for miscommunications. So
who then drew them
That's a
on
good
the walls
point.
of the
That's a
chamber.
good point.
Yeah. Also, it's
I mean, it does say in here that it's on the, it says exactly what they said of the Great Pyramid.
Right.
It says in the questions, and Ra agrees with them, every single one. All right. Here I have a deck of 22 tarot cards, which have been copied according to the information we have from the walls of, I would suspect, a large pyramid at Giza. If necessary, we could duplicate these cards in a book we're preparing. I would ask Ra if these cards represent an exact replica of that which is in the Great Pyramid. And Ra says, I'm Ra, the resemblance is substantial. Then it says, in other words, you might say that these were better than, I say, 95% correct as far as representing what is on the walls of the Great Pyramid. Ra says, yes. I'm Ra, yes. So then I understand this. Then Ra gave these archetypal concepts to the priests of Egypt, who then drew them upon the walls of one of the chambers of the Great Pyramid. What was the technique of transmission of this information to the priests? Was Ra at this time, was Ra walking the surface amongst them, or was this done through some form of channeling? And then Ra says this was done partially through old teachings and partially through vision. So it does, based on what was said there, they're agreeing, saying that they are written on the walls in the pyramid.
Yes.
Very quickly, I want to add one tiny thing, which is just to say that when they discovered the Alpha and the Omega and the bull that we mentioned before, the idea behind that was actually rooted in the morphogenic field. So that is to say, maybe we're not seeing them because we're not ready to.
Yes, but they're still probably there.
Well, how does Don know they're there?
Well, no, they just,
This is 1981. How did Don know?
That's a
they're
good question. That's a good question. How did
They didn't even have the words morphogenic field yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well,
We-
maybe it
we-
was
we still
received
have-
through channeling, just like the
Yeah.
priest received.
Right.
partially done through teachings and through visions. Maybe he got it that same exact way. Who knows?
Don was one of the wanderers of, I believe, the fifth density, and he could be remembering something he knew in the future that he was saying then in 1981. So,
Oh, maybe.
Honestly, it's not even about remembering. I mean, there's 15 books that were taken out of the Bible that Jews know about, and if you dig into the books of these, and which tell you how so-called angels or whatever you want to say, celestial beings were created, stuff like that. I mean, you're gonna know everything you want to know. So, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. There's 15 books that, and it includes the Book of Enoch, but that's kind of boring to me. But there's a book of Adam of Eve, Adam and Eve, and just tons of stuff that if you don't think about the literal translation, use your imagination, because that's your imagination is what actually creates, a higher consciousness if you really think about it. So, because it's really how all of you picture it at the end of the day, because that's your own truth, if that makes sense to y'all. But there's tons of hidden knowledge. I mean, you got so much stuff out here that, I mean, you just have to piece it all together. What you know inside yourself is true. So, I mean, that's how he probably figured it out. I don't think he was just sitting there channeling, he was channeling, but, they were going to pick up on things that he already knew about and put those images into his own head. If that makes sense. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
I think that there could also have been an element of Don Elkins very strongly believed this, and it would have been an infringement for Ra to say otherwise.
I agree.
But then why would they agree though?
Yeah.
Because it would be an infringement not to.
No, then that would be bullshit.
But they didn't fully agree nor disagree. It's like they're government workers, they can't agree or disagree.
Well, don't even start on government workers, because I just sat down with a DOD investigator and they're fucking assholes. But that's a whole other thing. They want to bring up charges. I thought in America you were innocent until you're proven guilty. But supposedly not.
But the other thing occurs to me as well is, like we were talking about before, this isn't the only dimension that we exist in. So perhaps Don had gone on a little bit of a 4D astral projection through the pyramid, and maybe there are paintings on the wall in the astral world. I haven't heard any stories about anybody projecting through the temple and confirming nor denying either way if the walls are painted. But that would be an interesting concept too.
Well, have you ever thought about looking in? To your heart, like actually literally looking to
as
your
soon as the
heart.
idea came to my mind, yeah.
I mean, you'll know the truth when you know the truth. Trust me. Like, I know fucking.
I personally have spent more time with the Bent Pyramid rather than the Great Giza, because the Bent Pyramid really maps out the human genome and the DNA structure of what we are, as well as a lot of atomic matter in the molecular structure of things.
Yeah, honestly, I don't fuck with Giza aliens at all. Like, I mean,
aliens.
I mean, yeah, that's who influenced Hitler. Fucking, all that shit. Friggin', I don't fuck.
No, that was Andre when he was a gray.
No, it wasn't the Greys. It was the what were they called? The ones that the Anshar. The Anshar are the ones that influenced Hitler, but he distorted their message as well.
Wait, who?
The Anshar.
Are you talking about Ashtar, like the Ashtar command?
No, the Anshar. Corey Good. Corey Good.
No. I've heard of it, but it didn't sound like someone that I wanted to know anything from.
Okay, well, Corey Good.
But tell me, I'm listening.
Used to have some legitimate information. And so when he had that legitimate information, he had several encounters with the Anshar who lived underground. And basically their story is they're from several million, like 18 million years in the future, on the New Age Sylvan timeline. And then they went like 11 million years into our past, because there was like to maintain the timeline. And then they lived underground for a long time, and in order to maintain separate races, they had kind of different eco bubbles, where, like, you know, the white people would live in one bubble and the black people would live in another bubble and the Asian people would live in another bubble.
What
And, like,
happens?
Racism at its finest.
yeah,
What-
so that's where Hitler got his purity of the races thing from.
Well, Hitler is just he's sitting
but-
somewhere in the middle of the universe with his dog Snuppy or whatever.
But
But
they-
what happens if you switch that around, those numbers? Fucking just thinking about it that way. They went into Inner Earth when all that shit came out here. Fucking they spent 11 million years watching our evolution.
Yeah.
And then if you switch it around, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. They fuck with you like that. They'll
Yes.
they'll give you the information, but
They-
they're gonna switch it around and just try to manipulate you to a point where you're gonna fucking not understand what's going on. But it's easy to pick up on a manipulator's game. I'm dealing with it here with the internet person who won't even pay. Fucking I just cut her off because she says she ain't working, but there ain't no coding class 8 hours a day for 4 months. Like, you know, it's the same fucking thing if you think about it.
Well, I just like to clarify that at least the majority of the Anshar are service to others fourth density entities. And
I never
like,
even heard of them.
Yeah. So, and they don't do it out of a racist thing. They do it actually of upholding diversity, because if they were to interbreed, then they would all be just one type of person. And they do, as Benny was just saying, they have like these rooms where they sit in these rooms and they telepathically project to the surface people and interact with them telepathically and send them messages and things like that. And like, so, you know, a bunch of, you know, neo-Nazis got their ideas from them.
Would this be part of the reason why Hitler was so fascinated with searching for like underground tunnels and that? Like he sent a crew to Antarctica and different places around the world looking for underground chambers and caverns and.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That
Well,
makes
they had
sense.
a whole civilization
And they
there.
found some. I mean, there was New Schwabenland.
Have y'all heard about they found bigger mountains under the earth? You know, I was
Yes,
just reading-
there is. Yeah, mountains bigger than Mount Everest and everything else inside the earth. Yes,
Yeah, like
I've read about it 2 weeks
And if
ago.
you read about Admiral Byrd, I mean, I don't know if he was on some drugs, but you know,
I don't think he was.
Oh, you know, from multiple websites, you know, friggin' whatever, but I think there is something in there. I mean, there's even a book, you know, my dad read me, and I think it was significant. The Journey to the Center of the Earth. And
That's about his.
So
thing.
I'd just like to clarify that. So based on my understanding, what he found was basically, you know how there's like those huge glaciers?
Emerald who? Oh, wait, what? Who found?
Admiral Byrd.
All right, so the mountains that we're talking about though just came out like I've literally just read in a scientific thing like 2 weeks ago about it. Like that's just literal like earth crap, not like the hidden thing that has anything to do with Emerald Byrd. But go right ahead now.
Right. Yeah. So I think that he was somewhat confused because we have a honeycomb Earth, and basically inside the crust of the Earth, there's a lot of lava tubes and lava domes.
Well,
and
his
some of
thing
them are
was he met a
inhabited.
whole race there.
Yeah, and there's
That's the
races
thing to do
living
with him.
there, and they got artificial suns and all the whole 9 yards. Like the Atlanteans have a base there, the Anshar have a base. Like a lot of different races have these bases in these underground lava domes and things like that. and they have forests and the sky looks blue and all that stuff. Because just for comfort, because that's what they want to see, and in order to maintain their biological cycles. Because in those deep underground military bases, what they found is that without having the influence of the moon, women stop menstruating, and then they have to do artificial insemination, and then they end up doing the whole artificial womb business, and then they're on the path to becoming gray aliens, which is one of the
Wait,
ways
what?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of the ways
that's
that gray aliens.
going.
It's
Yeah,
called
that's-
convergent evolution. So there's lots of different beings on different planets that reach fourth density, and then by the time they're done 30 million years, they often look like gray aliens.
I agree with you, but all they got to do is get together and they're gonna start bleeding at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're still all the same. Yeah, I know one guy. He told me, "Oh, those gray aliens are not immortal." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." It's like I kicked one, and then he was stinky. It's like, yeah, you probably ruptured their intestines.
They're chloroform beings. So, I mean, the way to look at them, they're not even actually real beings. Like from what I understand, they're avatars basically. Friggin', there's things controlling them. They're slaves to something that was brought into this universe from somewhere else, basically. So,
well, I don't know. It's kind of like they were created as servants. So basically, there's different. Are you guys familiar with like a beehive or like an ant hive? And there's like a queen, and then the queen produces the bodies, and the queen produces several kinds of bodies. Like there's the worker ants, and then there's the guard ants, and then there's like different in the nursery ants. And so it's the same thing with grays. So they are born and bred for a particular purpose, each body. And so when I was incarnated as a minor gray, and then like I had extremely great navigational memory, and I could remember all of the lava tubes that I've ever been in, and like how to get back home. Like I would never get lost, because I had this massive ability at navigation and like finding crystals and minerals and things like that. And so that's what I did for that, like the whole lifetime. And then another time I was a nurse gray, and then like my whole life I was just nursing grays out of the womb, and I'd be like sending them telepathic messages like, "You are loved, we want you, thank you, for continuing to grow in the womb there," and that stuff, and like helping them with that process until they're handed off to whoever they're apprenticed in their delegation. If they're a minor, they would apprentice with another minor until they're old enough to do it themselves, kind of thing. And then I was like an abductor gray. And so, but like you still have a soul, you just have a job that's exactly aligned with your body type.
Interesting.
It's similar to the caste system in India, but more refined.
I agree with you there. I was walking back one night and I was living in West Hollywood, still living out in the desert, but I was watching a rabbi's son. That's a crazy story, but that's not allowed to be talked about. But, I was walking back, I was like one block up from my house, and I saw a tall gray hologram. Like there was literally somebody getting arrested at that time, but I saw a tall gray hologram and a praying mantis getting arrested at the same time. So,
by who? The Men in Black?
No, well, LAPD, I wouldn't put it past them, but
wait, what? Huh.
But
interesting.
But because that's what they do. They suppress these. I guarantee you, in jail, there's probably I met somebody who fell asleep with their cigarette in their hand, caught their couch on fire. He couldn't afford an attorney. He got fucking 6 years in prison for lighting his own couch on fire.
America's crazy.
You
don't even make sense.
I just don't know like how you do it.
I'm sorry, but that don't make any sense to me. Like, I don't know anybody who's been arrested for accidentally lighting their own couch on fire.
I do. I know
That's
somebody
crazy.
arrested for
It's DC. You know, it's
cell
crazy
phone.
there.
It isn't DC. DC.
It's not that
Fucking
crazy there. Okay.
no, I get a day of unsupervised probation for the worst shit, but that's because I know people. But I know a person. I'm not gonna say too much, but if you type in my name on DuckDuckGo, you'll see a person who probably was strung out. Whatever. He fell asleep in a wooden cedar outhouse that was out there.
Did he kill people?
No, he lit a shelf on fire that was worth $100, and he was facing 6 years. They wouldn't drop the charges when the person who owns the land wouldn't drop the charge. They would drop the charges, and he either had to plead to a misdemeanor or a open plea in court for a felony. And
but what's the felony when it's $100 freaking felony is anything over 1,000?
No, in California it's $450. It didn't matter. I had to get the fuck out.
Oh, it's California.
That's not the USA. That's what my dad would say. So, I mean, that's a whole fucking socialist. I don't have problems with socialists.
Dystopia.
Yeah, it's a dystopia. Yeah, just look at it. Friggin', and I had the worst judge in the world. She's a Trump supporter. Fucking, she is married to a cop. She wouldn't even drop these charges when there was no charges. It was literally a shelf that just burned. There was like maybe a 6-inch burn on the shelf. And, of course, somebody called the fire department, all that. And I got all the court papers to prove it. Of course, I'm going to prove it to Des, but, yeah.
So this was you.
Of course. Of course. And you know what? Everybody who worked there at that time, somebody came out and politicked and they got all kicked the fuck off. They're all homeless now. So, I mean, that's just the way it works. You wouldn't stand up for me because I was catching you on stealing shit. Fucking whatever. Fucking. That's all I got to add in.
Before we finish up for the recording, I just wanted to add in that the article is at Daily Mail. There's a big one called titled "Mountains Buried 400 Miles Underground Could Be Bigger Than Everest." And it was in 2019, February 16th of February 2019.
Got it. And what was the point?
Is there a good diagram, a picture, any sort of what looks to be like different than these concentric shells they keep casting their illusions upon us with? Because every picture of the internal structure of the earth you see is concentric shells, and that's just not the way it is.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
The Confederation says basically it's not a hollow earth, that it's more of a honeycomb earth.
Or levels. I agree with that. Okay.
It's probably part of an illusion. I swear, I think Mount Shasta is an illusion.
That doesn't even reveal where we are. Like,
definitely, I do.
I became a Reiki initiate on Mount Shasta at the base, not on the mountain.
Yeah, I think it's an illusion after remote viewing it. And not just me. I feel like there's more to that than we think.
I'm generally of the opinion that if you're talking physical structure or something that exists, you fail to understand what's going on here.
Well, do y'all really understand what's going on here? At least from my opinion. It's an integrated polarity.
Understanding is not about density, as they say.
Is this an integrated
game?
Freaking, you got light, you got dark. We're all integrated together in a big ass experiment to see how we get along with each other, basically. And you got choices to make. That's free will. Friggin', that's Earth. If you really think about it, I mean, that's what I was told. I mean, you know, and I live that way, and I've never seen myself lose. So I really do make all the right choices. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell y'all. Like, it's just choices here. Like, I mean, every day, every single second, you have a choice to make. You can make the right choice. You can make the wrong choice. You could go up.
There
you
is
could
no
go
right
down.
or wrong choice.
I mean, you
Mark
could go
says
up.
there's no mistakes.
You could go
No
left. You could
surprises.
go right. I could go to the strip club and fuck 10 strippers at night. Like, you know, it's
Rob
all
in
the
the chat.
same. But you guys finish up the group. I mean, it's intense in here right now, so. And stop smoking, Des. Like,
Mind your
just smoke.
business. It's my choice, my free will to do what the hell I want.
Yeah, but it's the secondhand smoke that I'm thinking about.
Are you in here with me?
Maybe not me, but maybe like three others watching you.
That's immediately after you finish lighting up the smoke too. Yeah. It was
Anybody
the
else
link
have
for
any?
the
Oh,
link
go
for the
ahead.
Daily Mail article, just FYI,
Yeah.
is in the
yeah.
chat group for the Facebook page.
Yeah. So are you saying it's wrong or what? That's what I walked away from the room. I don't think you didn't hear me. So what was your thought process on it? Because yeah, I think that's exactly the one I read. Trevor.
No, I think that they're obviously releasing disclosure at a very small drip rate sort of process in order to be able to create confusion and uncertainty, which then they can manipulate into whatever direction that they choose. Yeah.
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 So anybody else? It's 9:07. Ed or Fred or Susanna, Amanda, Robert. Shit, I can't see this one. Sharice taking a nap.
I was just going to say about that other book, the Amanda, what's it called again? How do you say it?
You don't know how to say it.
Yeah, it's a wasp. It's a wasp. A wasp.
I don't
believe
bloody
that's
know.
yeah, I believe.
Can you hold
that's
it
how
up
it's
so I can
pronounced.
see the?
My
Can you hold it up?
PDF reader just spells it out in letters, so I
want to spell
no
it.
idea how it's pronounced.
I'm gonna let her hold it up so I can see the spelling, so I can write it down. Oh, A-H. And I won't even try to say that.
What is that?
L-E-E.
I know, but what's that book about? Oh,
Okay, so that's the longest.
a new Bible.
That's the biggest channeled work ever.
Can you see that?
Really?
It says the new
It
Bible.
came out in the
Yeah, it says a
20s.
new Bible.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says it's like a new Bible, but like seriously, it's not. It's
not.
It's fucking it's pretty mad, really. To be fair, there's a lot to it. I just wondered, like, if anyone else had like read it or anything, or
No, but I might embark on that journey.
It says
Yeah,
basic
this week I'll be
teachings.
into it.
It's O-S-P. They broke it down. O is for sky, A is for earth, and S-P-E is for spirit.
Yeah, each OSP emphasized service to others. Each person is graded according to service to others.
apparently it really influenced Don and Carla like initially before they even started doing
All
any of the
right,
channel
so
work.
Yeah, that
in the
makes sense.
words
They
of
use very similar
Jehovah and
terminology.
his angel ambassadors.
Yeah, it's not. It's very different to because I had pulled all those same faces seriously, but you'll probably
Praise
pull a
Spirit.
lot more of those faces if you do decide to read it. But there is some really crazy cool stuff in there, and it does kind of tie in bits and bobs in weird ways to the whole,
Law of one.
raw narrative and the law of one thing. There's lots of stuff that doesn't, but there's lots of bits that do. Like, when he's talking about how kind of like, you got the progression of like how consciousness kind of like defined itself moving out from the low guy. Do you know what I mean? But it's like you can kind of see the journey that the creator took with the refining of consciousness that Ra talks about. You can kind of see those same steps described in like super detail in this book. So like, you know, going through all the different things that that humans have had to go through to learn to be what we need to be, and all the lessons and all the kind of like
Ospe. That's how to
Mhm.
anyway,
pronounce it.
it's really crazy.
as the
I'm not
father,
sure
Spey
anyone
as in
was really
snake.
got patience to read it because it's
Ospe or Ospe. That's how you say
It's gonna
it.
take me a while. That's all I know.
So
Yeah,
it means sky, earth, and spirit.
Mhm.
Why don't you guys look at the medicine wheel? I mean, I'm a part of this Indian tribe. I mean, you know, I carry a medicine bag.
send me a link, man. Send me a link. I'll read it.
I will.
But
and
yeah,
I'm-
like it's just yeah, that,
medicine, alchemy, shamanism.
I mean, I live in
I
it.
know loads about that anyway, so that's gonna be fun. But yeah, this book anyway, like I don't know, it's kind of blowing my mind.
I never thought I'd hear that out of you.
Well,
I
like,
was
like
hoping
half
you'd
of it's
read it.
because of the fact, it is like just insane amounts of detail that I just don't see the need for.
Mhm.
But there's loads of like when it actually gets into it and you actually get into the kind of separate stories and all the different books, like it's pretty fucking epic tale, to be fair.
Mhm.
Like it's yeah, honestly. But anyway, I don't know. It's a good one. There's lots and lots of bits that tie into Laura 1. Like so,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
another one to add to the list of confirming information. Really, has anyone ever heard like the old Arcturian thing where they talk about how you got the triangle? The triangle is kind of the thing that we all need to be. Okay, so they talk about the triangle being the kind of cosmic contact, like kind of entities, alien entities kind of thing. Then they talk about the White Brotherhood being you know, like the ascended masters and kind of people that have got to the ascended place through religion rather than from kind of, you know, space interaction. And then you've got the other one being like the native religious practices of people on Earth, kind of before all the other influences, kind of thing. So like Native Americans, the Egyptians, the like South Americans, like the Druids, all these kind of really, really ancient, like spiritual practices. And they say that those three kind of lines or whatever kind of hold all of the stuff that we need to be working on. And so I feel like the raw material is kind of the alien side of that, being like the Bible-y kind of alien side, and that that OSH, whatever it is like the White Brotherhood side. Do you know what I mean? So I'm still trying to find the perfect bottom bar, but yeah, being a kind of what ancient religion had it best. So I'm going to start looking into like Native Americans and other, because there's quite a lot about that in that Oasho as well. They've actually got a whole book that talks through the what happens with all the different kind of basically what happened to the race that were in the Americas during the whole kind of evolution of kind of the spirit. I don't know, it's a really weird book. I don't know how to describe it. I'm really tired.
Anyway, it is. It's very hard to describe.
With just without the Trail of Tears. I mean, there was Native Americans, and then, you know, they came in here, you know, the Pilgrims or whatever, freaking. And then
have you guys ever heard of the Sphinx Code? Sorry.
Have we ever what, sir?
Heard of the Sphinx Code?
No.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
The Sphinxes in the kind of, you know, they're supposed to be the guardians of the mysteries, aren't they? So at the entrance of the Eddie Golden Dawn Temple, they used to have two sphinxes, which basically guards the doors to protect the mysteries. Like they're the chariot in the tarot. You know, it's two sphinxes that pull the chariot along.
So I don't know. I just found this. So I'm looking. I was just curious if anybody knew what the hell it was.
But it makes sense though, them being like a code for unlocking stuff, because, you know, they're the guardians.
All right, well, it's 9:15, my beautiful, wonderful friends. Misha, did you have something you wanted to say, love?
I wanted her to spell the name of that book again.
It is OAHSPE.
OAH.
SPE.
Got it.
Right.
I'm
Love you
converting
all.
it into an MP3 at the moment. I'm going to add it to a Proton drive and I'll share the link and the thing for those who don't have the ability to trans into audio file.
You're awesome.
Also, yeah, anyone that needs to do the audio thing, that Speechify app, I'm finding that wicked at the minute. Just put the PDF in it. The Australian voice is the best one. Just get it to talk to you. It's great.
I like the thing, what the hell is it called that Trevor gave me for my computer, not my MacBook, but my other one, the Balaboka. That works very well too.
Yeah, I prefer the programs and the apps because the apps are the destruction of our digital technology landscape. Everything was running perfectly before all this app shit came along. Now we're trying to integrate everything into one while trying to cut back and save money all at the same time. These things aren't working and they're just breaking apart. But apps also are a fantastic way to be able to limit and control environments, whereas programs are yours. And that's why they want to get rid of them. So I just default back to the programs instead of the apps. Speechify is great if you want to use that. I'm a bit more old school.
I prefer not to have to pay for shit, so. But Robert, did you want to close us out, dear?
I certainly. Thank you once again, great one infinite creator, for bringing us together in such a way. May our light and love always be within your streaming that is constant and forever. And may we go forth into our daily routines and lives and dreamlands and be of service to others in greater and greater strength. And until next time, may love and light forever be your companion. Go in peace. So it is.
Oh, it is. That was beautiful. And Andre?
So we'll leave you, therefore, in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
Adonai. Thank you. All right. Love you all.
Everyone.
Love you.
Love
Have
you
a great
all.
night.
Bye.
Mwah.